touched on, I have a lot of experience dealing with tax liens and tax deeds. And I think that's a very lucrative angle to get properties. But New Jersey is very, very competitive. So you have people from other states that invest in liens in New Jersey. And the way it works is it's 18%, like Rose said. So on paper, you get 18% of whatever title lien that you paid. Now what happens in New Jersey is that rate is actually bid down. So investors are fighting for these properties. What happens is they bid it down. So 18, 17, 16. Typically in New Jersey, it goes down to 0. And it actually, on some properties, it goes the other way. What that means is people, instead of you making money, the 18%, you're actually paying a percentage to get the property. Because it's that much of a demand. So when people read about 18%, I want to make this on the money, first of all, 95% of those liens that you see get redeemed. Because people are living in the house and they figure out a way to pay those taxes. Like Rose said, a lot of those properties are free and clear with no mortgage. So it's just the taxes. And most of the auctions we go to, like I said, 95+% of the people redeem those taxes. So you don't end up making that much money. But there are those properties that you can buy that are not redeemed. But you have to wait 2 years. And New Jersey also has another phantom period after the 2 years where that prior owner can come back and redeem the property. So it's very, very tricky, especially you talk about title insurance. When we insure an investor that's buying a tax lien, most title companies will not insure that lien because of the redemption period. So the title insurance doesn't want to put themselves on the line because somebody can come back and redeem that property. So you have to do your homework when you're buying these liens. There's a website I'm going to give you. I'm going to give this to you for free. All right, so everybody get ready. This is a good site that I found. New Jersey has their liens, their auctions are online now. Last year in New Jersey, about a couple hundred municipalities have their auctions online. The website is realauction.com. And you click on their title sales, it says title plus deed sales, and you click on its sales, and you click on the state or the city, and it'll show you the list of all the properties going up for sale. You still have to do your homework and your due diligence, but it saves so much time. Before we would generate lists of these liens and have to drive by them and have to do the research on them. But now you can do all of that from a website, realauction.com. Most of the sales in northern New Jersey are in December. So we just missed one. And they normally come out a month before the actual sale. But just keep that in mind. And if you go on the website, you can click on all the cities in New Jersey that have sales and kind of play around with it to get used to it and prepare for next year. Another thing I want to talk about that Rose touched on is finding deals. Another huge difference. The market has changed in the last 7-8 years. I heard some gentlemen talking when we were sitting over there about a website that they were buying properties on. So I'm going to give you some websites as well, other websites that you can find properties. Because before, some of these sites were like a secret. It was only a handful of people that knew these sites existed. And that's where we used to make a lot of money, because nobody knew that those sites were there. Now everybody are on the sites. You can still make some money on it, but it is more competitive. One of the sites is Hubzu. That's the one y'all were talking about in the back, right?
That was it. He said, I just bought one.
Hubzu, yeah, Hubzu, HUBZU.com. Aquin Financial Services.
Spell that.
Spell which one?
Aquin.
OCWEN. There's a big, big bank. Aquin, what they do is they buy bad loans from other banks. And Hubzu is one of the websites that they market and sell their properties. Some of the properties on there are not listed. Some of them are listed. Another website is HomePath. HOMEPATH. HomePath.com. That's a Fannie Mae website. That site's mostly for first-time home buyers, but you do have, once the 7 to 14-day period expires, any investor, anybody can go on there and bid on those properties. That's HomePath. Another one is HomeSteps.com. That's Freddie Mac. Very similar to what Fannie Mae does with HomePath. So these are sites, if you're looking for opportunities to live in, if you're looking to buy a house to live in, I would go to these websites first. Another one is HUD, HUDHomestore.com. HUD Homes, how many people heard of HUD Homes? So a lot of people in the room are not familiar with HUD Homes. HUD is a housing and urban development. That's a government agency. And what happens is when you get a loan, how many people heard of FHA? Has everybody heard of FHA loan? So when you default on an FHA loan or you don't pay the mortgage and it goes into foreclosure, HUD takes that property and HUD markets and sells that property online. And you have to go through a certified broker, real estate broker, to put an offer in on the website. So you definitely want to contact Rose or your agent, someone from the office, and have them look on there for you. But you can go on the website yourself. And it has deadlines as far as when the auction periods start and end. So it's normally around Thursdays is when they end. But they give you 3 days to bid on it. That's another site that you can find deals on. HUDHomestore.com.
And let me just make one point if I can. So the beauty with the HUD online is that, I just want to interject because a lot of people are first timers. So what they do, they have a first look portion. So certain properties they earmark for the first 21 days, only owner occupied people can purchase them. So after the 21 days, then they open it up to investors. So certain properties, as you're looking, that first look is a great way for you to not have to compete with investors if you're just looking to get an affordable house for you and your family to live in. So that's a part of that HUD program. Okay.
So it's HUD Home Store?
HUDHomestore.com. Yes, all of these sites are foreclosed homes.
But the real auctions, they do foreclose as well as tax liens.
Those are just tax liens.
Just tax
Just
liens?
tax liens.
I've seen them on abandoned houses. That's fine.
Real auction? Well, real auction. You talk. Well, auction.com is a huge company. You should write that down. Auction.com is another auction website. Then you got to pay a small fee to register to put bids in. But the market has changed. The real estate market has changed drastically. What I tell particular buyers is to go online, and once you find a property that you like, then we'll schedule the appointment to go see it. Because if you're a good agent or you're an active agent and you're really representing your seller, you'll put out as many photos as you can on those pictures. So if when we put a listing in the system, there's up to 25 pictures that we can put on that listing. If we put those 25 pictures on there, that shows up on every website. So it gives the agent and the buyer, a head start. So instead of you saying, well, what does the house look like, you can see the pictures before you even go look at the house. So with technology now, you got to take advantage of what's out there. So instead of you looking at 20 houses on the weekend, you can spend your time on your computer, on your phone, narrowing that list down. So you're not wasting the realtor's time or your time. Does that make sense? Another thing is getting pre-approved before you go to buy a house. Now that could be customary. People assume that does all the time. But what happens is somebody called me the other day and said, from New York, and they said, I want you to show me houses. And I said, well, send me your pre-approval letter. And they said, oh, I got cash. I got the money. And I said, all right, well, that's fine. Send me a statement, and then I'll schedule the appointments. And they said, I'm not going to do that. Send me the properties. If I see something I like, I'll send you my information. And I said, okay, well, the way I work is I'm not leaving my house until I know they're financially approved to buy the property. Oh, well, another realtor said that they can do this. Well, you might want to call them. And it's not me being arrogant or me trying to be better than anybody else. It's more so for them. Even if you have the cash, you still want to talk to a financier about the process of getting a mortgage if you ever want to refinance, what the rates are. There's a lot of cheap money out there. And it takes 20 minutes to get pre-approved. So if you're just starting out or have been doing this for a while, you want to find a mortgage rep or somebody that can actually sit down with you, run your financials. So by the time you walk out of there, you know exactly how much you're approved for, which you may not even want to spend. Sometimes you make good money and you're approved for, let's say, $400,000, but you don't want to pay that much. You want to stay in that 300 range. I wouldn't know that unless you talk to the mortgage lender. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's very, very key. Going into mortgages, we talked about that on the flyer. We wanted to touch on the current state of mortgages, how to make sure you're well prepared for this year coming up. The mortgage industry has changed a lot. So when the market crashed in 2007, 2008, the banks tightened up on lending. So there were not that many loan programs out there. There was not a lot of movement as far as mortgages were concerned. But that changed. And now we're at a point where there's a lot of those affordable products out there. Not like they were, but they're very similar. So the interest rates right now, does anybody know what the 30-year fixed rate is?
4.25.
It's a little lower. It's lower than 4%.
About 3.8.
3.75, between 3.5% and 4%. Is that a good rate? Does anybody think that's a good rate?
Yes, for today, yes.
When I got in this business, it was 7-8%,
Yeah.
and that was they figured it would never go lower than that. My mentors, when they were buying real estate, it was 18-19%, which I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine selling real estate
It's going to go down.
in that type market. And you say they're going to go down, so people think that the rates are still going to go down.
It's going to go down, yes.
So the question is now a good time to buy?
Yes, it's the value.
Well, we're going to say it's always. As real estate professionals, you ask us, we're going to tell you it's always a good time to buy. Right? I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. But you got to ask yourself, is it a good time? So there's certain factors that determine if it's a good time. One of them is the low interest rates. So if you can lock into a low interest rate now, you're going to save yourself a long time in the future, especially with an election year coming up. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. So some people are going to feel pressure to get into a rate now before that election because rates may go up depending on the election or whatnot. So it's definitely good to keep your finger on the pulse as far as the mortgages if you want to buy a house for an investment or first-time home buyer. Now, what are some of the programs out there for first-time home buyers? NACA's a good program. They got the one program, right? Did they get another program yet? It's just the one.
That and Section 8.
Section 8?
They fund Section 8.
NACA funds Section 8 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would look into that. I would definitely look into that.
The one in Jersey.
Are there income restrictions on that still?
Yes. So, I'm a HUD instructor, and
Yep.
that's one of the things I do. The one in Jersey, they're
Come on, Raymond. Raymond, people can't hear you in the back.
come on up.
Come on, Raymond. She would know a lot more than
They
me.
can't hear you.
Don't act like that, you got my card. Hey, there you go.
2 minutes.
I'm sorry about that, guys. All right, long story short, as a HUD
Raymond, over
instructor,
here, Raymond, come to the mic.
first we'll stand up, now let's come here. All right, honestly, I come from a non-for-profit background, and I saw a lot of things moving in the economy, and growing up in Borough Park, Brooklyn, not seeing certain communities being able to utilize it. I found that there's a waiting list right now in New Jersey of 10,000 people in Section 8.
Yes.
New Jersey was #1 in foreclosure since 2015. So I'm trying to marry it. So I connected with NACA. The president of NACA is Mr. Bruce Marks, and he created a program for Section 8. The one in Jersey, they're learning the process, who's Mr. Kirk Rogers. But if you contact Corporate, which is out in Boston, they will facilitate it. If someone is on Section 8, you have to go to 520 Broad Street, go to the FSS office, convert your Section 8 voucher from rental to mortgage, and then you could go into home ownership. It will be the same thing. They pay 70%, you pay 30%. However, you can only get either a condo, co-op, or a single family. You have to learn, though, that in 15 years you have accumulated so much equity that you can now take it and invest in other things and, start building generational wealth that way.
Thank you. So that's actually a very good information to know. You definitely want to follow up with Raymond. I'm sorry, say that again?
So there's another side to it that's not on Section 8 as well. That's brilliant. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And that's a no-brainer. I'm about to sell 20,000 homes because of that. But there's another side to it. If you're not on Section 8, you can still qualify for NACA. They pay your down payment and closing costs. But it's a pain in the ass. Like it's literally, they pull teeth. You gotta earn it. If you go through it, you gotta go to a class, you gotta go to a seminar, you gotta talk to somebody, ask a bunch of questions. But they will give you down payment and closing costs up to.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, with NACA, I mean, NACA is 0% down sometimes and 0 interest rate, right? But the like anything that's free, they make you work really, really hard and long for it. So keep that in mind when you're going through these different programs. There's a trade-off, right? So you might not be paying in money, but you might be paying in time. So that's why we're saying do your research with the different type of financing out there to see what works best for you. Because even though it might sound good, you might not want to wait 6 months, a year, 2 years to even get in that program, right? Because they have waiting lists and it's a process. So weigh out your options. Try to get, see what I tell people, try to get qualified for multiple things. So a hard money lender, a regular lender, a NACA program, a grant program, you know, just try to like get qualified for a few things at one time so you can really pick out and weigh out what the best option is for you at that time. That was it.
Thank you too. So there's several programs out there. The money's available for those that want to buy a property to live in. There's certain programs that the bank's going to try to force you into, and I want to speak on that a little bit because you have redlining going on, and you have what's called, what they do is they put black and brown people in a box, and they say we can only qualify for these type of programs, right? So those programs are okay, but there's other programs that you might want to look at. And if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't raise your hand, then they're going to steer you in that box. So I want to educate you on some questions to ask your lender if you're in that position to buy a house to live in. So the one that they always put us into is FHA. How many people heard of FHA? We talked about that earlier. FHA is not a bad program.
It's not.
It's not a bad program. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is I feel some kind of way because I have student loans, and they don't make people with student loans to that extent. Like, you know what I mean? And I think it's wrong.
Well, it's the government.
Yeah.
And that's the same government. So the government,
But
you
I
owe the
have
money.
student loans, and it's not like I have outstanding bills with though I'm in default of my student loans. I have student loans.
And they're on time?
And they,
And it's still, the lender's still giving you a hard time?
And the ones that they don't give a hard time,
Hey, we
is
can
the
talk
ones
about that.
that's doing a doctorate degree. I have a master's,
Okay.
and that it don't even count. But the ones doing the doctorate degree, they take away all that. They take it.
See, that sounds like see, when you're talking about FHA guidelines, they have certain government guidelines that they follow. But then each bank has their own guidelines, right? So you have the government guidelines that everybody's supposed to follow, and then certain banks put more stipulations on there. So it depends. It may be a matter of going to another lender that may not have that stipulation.
But FHA, I want to go through them because you can get the loan all in one lump sum to actually, because I want to gut it. I want something I could gut. and
So you're
fix
talking
up.
about a
So
different.
you
You're talking
can
about the
get
203K within the FHA.
that. Okay.
All right. So we're gonna talk about that one. That's a great program, right? But before we jump into that, let's back up a little bit. FHA is a good program, but that's not always the best program for you, right? So if you have FHA, go ahead, jump in.
On FHA, you have to pay the PMI for the life of the loan if you go through.
That's why I don't think it's a good loan. See, we got some smart people. See, come around. Maybe you gotta speak up.
You have to pay the PMI for the life of the loan if you only put down 3.5%. Whereas if you go conventional, once you reach 20%, then you no longer have to pay the PMI. So I would go conventional.
Well, hold on. You gotta explain that for people that may not understand.
At some point, you can turn that loan from being an FHA loan to a regular conventional and get rid of PHI.
I did that. We refinanced.
You had to refi though to get out of the loan.
We refinanced it from 30 to 25.
Gotcha. It was more like a streamline.
And a couple $1,000.
So does everybody know what PMI is?
Some insurance.
Raise your hand if you do not know what PMI is.
I don't.
All right, so PMI is called private mortgage insurance. So what happens is when you buy a property, originally you had to put 20% down to buy a house. Okay, that was the standard. If you didn't have 20% down, you couldn't buy a house. So what the government did was they said, all right, we're going to start a special program, FHA, which is actually insurance. FHA is actually insurance. What they insure is You don't have to put 20% down when you go FHA. They allow you to put 3.5% down, right? 3.5%. That gets you into the property, right? And you can also get a gift. So FHA has a lot of good qualities, but the problem I run into when lenders force that on people, when they have more money to put down, they don't need a gift. They think we all need gifts. They think we all don't have money to put down, so they just assume that we're at the lowest hanging fruit. Whereas you have another program, Fast and Easy, that's very similar to FHA, where the MIP is much lower, and it's not as stringent on the appraisal. And there's certain guidelines, because FHA takes you through a rougher process, through the appraisal process to buy the property. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, because I don't know what everybody's knowledge base is. But the main point is, when you're applying for a loan, you ask that loan officer to show you at least 2 or 3 different programs that you qualify for. Don't let them put you in that FHA box, which might be the program for you, but at least look at other options that they offer, because they're out there. And a lot of the bankers make more money on FHA, so they're going to put you in that box.
Damien, but what if they go FHA, they take the down payment total cost assistance up to $50,000 in New Jersey, and then after they spend 20%, then they refinance and get a conventional?
You can do that. People do that all the time. Well, why would you go through all of that when you could just go straight to the conventional lender?
Some people don't have that money to pay
If you
down.
qualify, that's what I'm saying.
But
If you
then,
don't qualify.
I like free money, and if the city is giving, like Jersey City is giving 40,000, Belleville is giving 50,000, and the state is giving 10,000, you stack it up together, that's 50,000, you put it down, you get the FHA loan, and you keep pushing.
But if you're getting that much down, why wouldn't you go straight to the conventional?
No, because it has
It
to
has
be
to
an
be
FHA
FHA.
product. It's
Oh.
an FHA product.
So those grants are tied directly to
Yeah.
FHA.
It's through life.
Interesting.
You
Interesting.
have to attend a first-time home buyer workshop. It's like 6 to 8 hours, but that's the biggest paycheck you can give yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of grants out there too that help out with the down payment. And there's a lot of restrictions with that. You got to live in the city. There's certain parameters that you have to fall within. But you definitely want to look into that as well. Now, as far as investors that want to buy properties, it's a little different. Now, FHA, the 203K product that you talked about, that is for owner-occupied borrowers. Yes, before we could talk about the investor side, the 203K is a section of FHA that allows you to borrow money to rehab the property. And it's a great program. You have 2 different types of 203K programs. One is a streamline. If the repairs are under $35,000, it's much quicker. If it's a total rehab, it's going to be a little bit more drawn out. But if you're buying a property, and it's great because you can do multifamilies too. So you could buy a 3-family house, 3.5% down, and they're going to give you the money to fix it up.
And it's one loan.
And it's one loan.
Oh.
But you have to live in the property. You have to live in the property. Minimum 3 years. We'll go with that. We'll go with that because people say different things. And I'm not sure exactly what the guideline says. But it's something that's great to get into and research that. Because if you're looking to buy a property, the only thing is you have to live in the property. One of the units you have to live in. So if you want to buy a 3-family investment and you apply for the 203K, you're not going to get it. Unless you tell them you're going to live in it and you're really not. But we don't like doing that. We want to be honest on the applications and make sure that we don't get caught up in fraud or crime and whatnot. So that's a 203K, which is a great product. So if you're buying a house that needs repairs, ask your loan officer about that loan. I think it's very good. Sure, please, jump in.
So really quick, guys, with that, so again, for some people that come to my classes and workshops, I teach this 4-3-2-1 theory. So with the FHA, remember he spoke about goals, vision, strategy, plan, right? So you take the FHA loan, you get a 4-family because that is the maximum that you can, maximum amount of units that you could borrow with an FHA loan, 4 units. So I call it a 4-3-2-1 because you take the FHA, you find a 4-family, you put your 3% down or no % down depending on the grant that you stacked it with. Then you could either get a 203K, fix up the 4-family, or take it turnkey. That means it's already fixed up. Have it for a year, refinance into a conventional. Wait a little bit, then use FHA again and get another property. So you can use FHA multiple times throughout your real estate career. You just cannot use it at the same time. You can't have two. So you get the FHA to get your 4-family. Refinance, go into a conventional product. Use your FHA again to go into a 3-family. Refinance, go into a conventional product. Use the FHA again to get a 2-family. Then you, same thing. And maybe by then, right, because we talked about 9, that's 9 rents right there that you're getting in by the time you get to a 1-family. You might be in a position to buy your house that you want to live in cash. So, or you use that FHA one last time on a single family. That's a quick way to kind of get multiple properties and have investment set up. If you don't know what a strategy is, 4-family, 3-family, 2-family, 1-family. Make it simple for yourself. Okay? So that's it.
This gentleman had a question over here. Bro, you had a,
Let's say for like that investment property you want to use the FHA for, let's say you want to like inhabit the basement, do you use like part of those funds to like use the basement?
sure. Yeah.
We couldn't hear what he said.
He said for the 203K, can you use those funds to renovate a basement?
Yeah, so you know, you stay in the basement if you're young, maximize like the profits you can get from it. You don't gotta waste the floor like if you're barely home, if you're barely working. You know, like in my case.
So let me get this straight. So you look, let's for example, 2-family house.
Nah, let's shoot for like 3 or 4.
All right, there you go. Let's say a 3-family house with a basement,
Yeah.
and you want to get a 203K to purchase the property
Yeah.
and fix it up.
Make the basement look good, you know.
But you're gonna live in the basement
Yeah,
and rent the 3 out.
exactly.
No, you can't do that.
You can do
No.
that.
You have to live in a legal unit. You have to put on paper. I mean, you can do whatever you want after you close, but go ahead, bro. I'll let bro say.
No, Damon's absolutely right. Damon's absolutely right because you can't really do that per se for the sake of the loan because they're not going to consider you living in the basement. Now, they won't give you the money to fix up the basement because it's not technically like a safe unit. You can't really rent basements out. But owners can live in their attic and owners can live in your own basement. You can. You can. You got to just, have an electrical stove in the basement. You can live there, but you cannot rent it out for income producing because it's not a legal unit. Do you understand what I'm saying? But you can rent out the 3 upstairs. So, for example, I had a client, right here in Newark, 2-family with the bonus. Everybody sees, if you're out there, you see 2-family properties with a bonus unit, but it's still a 2-family, right? So he did his FHA loan. They counted only one of the rents towards his rent because it's a legal 2-family. So his numbers were low because, they considered him getting only 1 rent. He got money to do new kitchens and bathrooms for 2 of the units. He took his own money and finished off the top floor, right? Now he lives in a bonus unit and he rents out the 2 actual legal units. He's making $700 a month just to live in his own house. So that's what this gentleman was kind of talking about. So if it's just him, like he said, I don't suggest it as much if you have kids and a lot of things going on, but if you're just a single person or a couple just starting out, you could live uncomfortably in a nice clean space in the basement for a year, to just max up and get a lot of cash flow, right? Because when you're buying multifamilies for FHA, they automatically take 1 unit off as income because they're assuming that you're going to live there.
What do you think about utilizing all the square footage and using the basement as